I want to start with why we worship and why we lead worship. So the first question is really why worship at all? And then again, why do we lead worship? Because everybody could worship God alone, right? I mean, why is there a need for worship leading? So to address the first point, why we worship, I want to read a Bible verse to you guys. You have them all. I try to write all the verses down, the references on the handout, and I will read from Isaiah. Where is it? I think I have this one.
Ta-da.
Oops.
Find it on your own. It's a big book. It's easy to find.
Okay. And this is one of my favorite verses when it comes to the greatness of God. If you want, you can close your eyes and just hear these words. It's God who's talking to his people here. Who has measured the waters in the hollow of his hand, measured heaven with a span, and calculated the dust of the earth in a measure? Weighed the mountains in scales and the hills in a balance. Who has directed the Spirit of the Lord, or as his counselor has taught him? With whom did he take counsel, and who instructed him and taught him in the path of justice? Who taught him knowledge and showed him the way of understanding? Behold, the nations are as a drop in a bucket, and are counted as the small dust on the scales. Look, he lifts up the isles as a very little thing, and Lebanon is not sufficient to burn, nor its beasts sufficient for a burnt offering. All nations before him are as nothing, and they are counted by him less than nothing and worthless. To whom then will you liken God, or what likeness will you compare to him? This last question really struck me, because we have the problem, we see things around us that we have experience with, and then there is a danger that we liken God to things that we know and that we have seen, and we forget that he is nothing like anything we have ever seen, or nothing like anything we have experienced so far. I mean, we have experienced God because he is gracious enough to reveal himself to us, but we just believe that, I can say for my life, there's so little I have seen from God yet, and I believe there's so much more. And that's just, for me, that's something that fuels worship. When it says all nations before him are as nothing, not less than nothing and worthless, I mean, I don't think the stress is on how worthless we all are. I mean, God loves us, but it's we live in a time and society where people tell you, well, you are valuable, you have worth, like you are beautiful. And I think it's important to just realize that we do not have this worth out of ourselves. It's not intrinsic worth that we have. It is God who has worth, like he's the author of worth, and just because he made us, and he was kind enough to make us in his image and look upon us with, like, graciously, this is the only reason we live, and this is the only reason why I can tell to somebody, wow, you are beautiful, you are in fact, you have worth, you are worthy. But it's not like that we can stand before God and, well, we are worthy. No, we're not. I mean, you are worthy. And I just love this verse because it makes it perfectly clear. Another really good verse I will read to you from Romans, where is it? 11:33. Oh, the depth of the riches both of the wisdom and knowledge of God! How unsearchable are his judgments and his ways past finding out. For who has known the mind of the Lord, or who has become his counselor, or who has first given him, and it shall be repaid to him? For of him, and through him, and to him are all things, to whom be the glory forever. Amen. So that's the reason why God is worthy, and it's just right to worship, to attribute worth to someone who is this worthy. So the next point I would like to make is that worship is for Him and not primarily for us. So when I turned to Jesus, I used to say things like, wow, the worship time was really good for me, or I liked it when people said that to me, or I've grown to become very skeptical of phrases like these because they don't hit the center of it. I mean, it's right. I mean, as you said, it's true that God really blesses us when we come to Him. It's within His nature, but we need to make sure that we do not worship God for ourselves. There's really a danger, and when I see worship concerts where people, I don't know how you guys can share how you feel about that, but if it becomes too dancey, more like something that I could also, like I could go to a club and dance and have fun, like if it goes too much in that direction, I don't know, it makes me a little bit uneasy sometimes, because I think this worship is really for you, and if He's kind enough to bless us in return, that's wonderful, but even if He's not, He's still worthy. And I don't know, do you guys, you know what I mean? Yeah. Okay. In Deuteronomy, the Lord says to the Levites, that is 10 verse 8. Then the Lord said to me, that's probably Aaron, arise, begin your journey before the people, that they may go in and... Oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. At that time the Lord separated the tribe of Levi to bear the ark of the covenant of the Lord, to stand before the Lord, to minister to Him, and to bless in His name to this day. So God called a people, like He set people apart, and He said, you guys stand before me, minister to me, and just praise my name, bless my name, and I think that has a lot to do with worship. God calls us to stand before Him, and when we worship Him, we do minister to Him. So now the question why we actually lead worship. I think I have no perfect answer, but when I thought about it, I thought it has a lot to do with unity, because God's heart is totally after unity. Like He's crazy for unity. He loves unity among brothers and sisters, and it's hard to have unity when there's no leadership. You can have unity in extraordinary cases when the Spirit of God just directs everything. Like if He's so present that the Spirit of God Himself takes control, like takes complete control, I think there can be a wonderful unity there. But most of the times when we need, without leadership, everybody would do their own thing. And so it's hard then to get this kind of unity. There are verses in the Bible where it says that they praised Him with one voice, and this with one voice it's hard to achieve if there's no leadership. So for me that's the best, my best take on why we lead worship. And when I thought about this, not just this night, but actually I've been thinking about this for a long time. I think it was since May, when we were in Bethel, I started thinking about why we lead.
So
last year.
just 4 weeks ago.
May 2005. We went to Bethel, and it is, I suppose almost all of you know Bethel Church in Redding, California, and they have this very strong culture about worship, and I thought about worship and how we lead worship a lot, and I found an illustration that I would like to share with you, because to me it's very helpful, and it's like an expedition to an oasis in a desert. I feel, most of the time as a worship leader, I feel like leading an expedition to an extravagant and beautiful place, and there are people who are kind of entrusted to me, like I feel very responsible in a way, and I want to lead them to this oasis. So in order for me to do that, I need to know that place. Like if I don't know that place, I can't lead anybody. And if if I haven't been there, I need at least to have a very clear picture of it, or have, like God, I need to have God show me the way to that place. And then when actually enough people have have gathered and we want to set out, I feel like sometimes it needs encouragement. Like people lose sight, they lose perspective, and it's important that we remind each other and also remind those that we lead that God is worthy and that this place is real and that it is worth of our effort to get there. Because we tend to forget that. Like I just sharing from my heart, my soul tends to forget that. I need to remind myself, we need to remind each other that this goal, like, which is God or deeper places in God, is absolutely worthy of our time, of our efforts, of our searching. And yeah, I also wrote down we as leaders need to keep the group together. Sometimes you have a large gathering and there are, 5 or 6, and they just scream out their lungs to God, and you, wow, cool, I can worship with these guys. But actually God has entrusted the whole group to you, so we need to look after them, and we need to be careful not to run off. Sometimes leading worship can be frustrating, and then I tend to go into a mode where, okay, God, this is just you and me, and I hope this time is over soon. But that's not good worship leading. That's just, I can do that alone. Good worship leading is something else.
This is, I think, a very important difference to make, that when we do worship like just by ourselves, it's important to know what God is saying, and maybe you need a word of encouragement, or you just want to praise Him, and by praising Him you overcome this negativity in your head or whatever is going on. But when you lead a group, when it's a corporate thing that we're doing, then we have to look out, how are they doing, I love those times, when I'm so lost and my eyes are closed and I don't know where we're going and it's all but if there's a group that I'm leading, I have to at least open my eyes once in a while and see, okay, are they still there, or are they just finding it amusing what I'm doing? Of course we shouldn't be enslaved by the ones we're trying to lead, because we don't want to manipulate anybody into the presence of God. We don't want to, carry them to the place. Everybody should be hungry by themselves. But when we lead a group, we have to have a certain, not focus, but at least have an eye on the group we're leading to. And sometimes it helps to say something, like to give directions. Okay, let's now everybody raise your hands, or because at least in Germany I feel like everybody's so private, nobody. I don't want to be told how to, what to do now. But sometimes I believe it's a very good tool for us to engage everyone, because sometimes there are people in the group you want to lead that are so focused on their own, whatever they're going through, that they don't realize they have the identity of worship. I mean, God put the ability to worship Him and the desire to worship Him. He put it in all of us. There are not some few elect that are called to meet God. It's in all of us. So everybody has this identity. It's something that is not put away by our behavior. It's something that we are. We are His sons and daughters. We are the ones that love Him. We are the ones that are called to worship Him. So sometimes it's to not run off, like Momo said. It's good to, engage people by saying, hey, come on, let's all get up now. Let's all shout this chorus another time, or let's all pray the Lord's Prayer together now. Just, to have everyone open their mouths and see what strength in the word is that when you speak it. So I think it's very important to make this distinction, because for instance in the prayer room, when we would lead a time there, it's not so much about having everybody follow there. It's more of a God and me time. So then it's okay to lose sight of the people, because you're not trying to lead them. But when you're in a setting where you're trying to lead the group to a certain place, to the oasis, don't lose track of them. As we said before, the whole, I don't know, the whole topic of music, I don't know how often you have talked about it or thought about it. I have the feeling that whenever you talk about music, whenever you talk about worship, you have to kind of say, oh, it's not just about music, you know? And I've kind of grown tired of it, because
it's a lifestyle, you know.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle. I know. I worship him through the way I wipe my baby's butt. Anyway, I do. Hopefully I do. It's just that sometimes I feel in the question that there is this, that we believe that music is just for some. And I'm not saying everybody should play an instrument and everybody should hold a microphone and, you know, we all have to engage in that. But I do believe that God created music and that it's something for everyone. I can't really put a lot of theological weight on this, but it's just something that I've experienced. Even people who can't sing, who don't play an instrument, who wouldn't necessarily listen to music in their homes, but still there's something about music where I would phrase it opens our soul. Mm-hmm. So especially when I read the Psalms, I find it so funny actually that, you know, you read them and we write them on posters and on cups and everything, but usually the first verse describes the psalm, how it's supposed to be played. Mm-hmm. And I find that very interesting because I feel like music gives words a different kind of power. I wouldn't say they have more power with music and less power without it, but it's just a different thing about it. And I find it so interesting that there's, for instance, Psalm 100. A friend of mine wrote a song about that like 20 years ago, so I was really young. And I still remember every word of that psalm because she wrote a song about it. Just because I have a melody to it, I just sing it, and this is how I keep the words. And maybe you're wired a little differently. All I'm trying to say is, even if you lead people in a context where they would say, oh, music is not for me, I would encourage you to challenge them. Hey, maybe music does something to your heart too. It doesn't mean that you have to start singing. It could mean that you use music as a tool, like have some instrumental music play in the background and then read up some psalms or whatever you want to do, or even during prayer have some music play, because I think music is this powerful tool. The story that I have in mind, like all of us, like very suddenly when I think about this topic, is King Saul, like pretty early in his, how do you call it, kingdom? Something very early when he was king, so he wasn't mad at David yet. He wasn't all weird yet. So he was still, he was still going with God, loving Him. But still, the scriptures say in 1 Samuel that he was tormented by an evil spirit sometimes, and I kind of imagine he would just get really grumpy and be kind of bad to all the people around him, because the people around him thought, we have to do something about it. Oh, let's find someone to play music to him so that the evil spirit would leave. And I find that so interesting, because when you read about Saul's life, he's not the worship guy in a sense. He doesn't really worship all the time. He doesn't have all these worshipers gathered around him all the time. But still, music made him feel better. And I'm not saying we're supposed to pamper each other by playing nice music. I'm just saying that I find it important that we don't let ourselves think that music is just for some. I think it's a powerful tool for everyone. And yeah, worship is not about music. We got that. I think yeah. And still, it's okay to use it. It's very okay to use it, even if you don't play an instrument or you don't sing. So that's why we thought we want to give you some practical ideas or just own experiences from leading worship with music. Because, well, on the one hand, we believe music is a powerful tool, and of course we as musicians use it a lot. And as I said before, the things that are true for a list of songs can also be true for a list of prayers that you want to pray in a meeting, or of words you want to share, or of things you want to write on a sheet and give to people in order to invite them to link into God's presence, or maybe a list of verses that you want to read in a prayer meeting. Yeah.
We put some more resources on the third sheet. I think that it is really beneficial to study the different kinds of words that the Bible uses for worship, and I don't know all of them. There are several Hebrew words, and I think just one or two in the New Testament. But the ones that are most commonly used have to do with humbling ourselves and bowing down really low, like really bowing down and kissing the feet of someone. So it has to do with being humble before someone, and also being passionate and loving someone. And in that sense, I think we all understand it's deeper than just a song. It's more than that. And it doesn't help if I'm not usually a person who humbles himself before God. It doesn't do much good to just sing him a song with good lyrics about how humble I am before him. I think that's clear. But yeah, if you want to go deeper into these things, there are good resources on that. The set list is a powerful tool that we have, even more so when we lead with a band, because it's really hard to play many spontaneous songs when you play with a big band. I mean, you must have a really good band if they should follow you as a worship leader spontaneously to, I don't know what. So, set list, important tool, and we like an approach that I think originally comes from the Vineyard Church, but which is promoted right now in the Bethel School. They have a resource base they call Worship You. We also gave the internet address on the third page, and they say that there are several stages of a worship time, and it starts with inviting people to worship. I think that just makes total sense, because most of the time people come from stressful weeks, and they just chatted for a long time before the church service, or I don't know, their minds just go on about problems they had, or something that happened that morning, or even a fight, or worse things, I don't know. So it's always good to allow for time that people can realize, okay, we're preparing to meet an eternal God who is always worthy, but who in the end also wants to address the problems that I have. So it's always good to plan one or two songs where people, you always have those few that feel totally ready and they want to start off right away. But for all the others, it's good to have songs that remind us why we're doing this, and that we're praising God now. Do you guys know good songs that are suitable, that are good to start with? Or which ones do you usually use?
Come now, it's the time to worship.
Yeah, that one is, of course.
That's the only one I can definitely always
Yeah, of course. Okay, yeah, more songs like that.
I thought of Open Up the Sky.
Open Up the Sky. Oh, wow, that's bold.
It's
That's,
When the music fades.
wow, that's even okay. I'm not saying that's it's not for me to say that anything is wrong. I just feel that different set lists are combined with different levels of boldness and of faith. So I'm not sure if I could pull that off. But yeah, when the music fades, I would have that way deeper in that list. But yeah, I like songs that we sung here. We have come. It's just something that is actually true. Songs, I love the Psalm 103, where we speak to our soul, we remind our soul that God is worthy and that He's good. Those are good songs. at the moment we love Hands to the Heavens, we are your church, we are your people. It's just simple words from the Bible that are truth and that remind people why we're doing this. There are many more, but I feel these are really important because if you leave them out, you might lose them like from the first song on. The next phase is called Praise and Declarations, and this one can really take a lot of the time of our complete worship time. We praise God for who He is, not because we have needs or we need to feel good. Yeah, that's right. We declare His worthiness and goodness. We don't do this because God is some kind of poor king who needs this, but really because He is ultimately worthy above all other beings to be praised. And I feel that the more time you take for this, like if God is really, like if people shout at their lungs to Him and really praise Him, then that's really a good basis for anything to come afterwards. When I preach, which I rarely do, but when I preach, I just love it when the time of worship is really strong, God is praised. That's perfect, because faith is stirred and it's words of truth and the Spirit is there already ministering, so that's just fruitful for everything that's coming later. Which brings me to the third part, response. I wrote down, we worship a God who's not dead. That comes in handy here, because God, we could worship anything. We could stand in front of a huge statue and sing songs of praise to that statue. And sometimes I have the feeling in some churches that God is worshipped like we're singing to a stone statue, because people don't expect Him to intervene or to say something or to act with the Spirit. But actually that's something that I think He always wants to do. So when He does that, we need to be able to find a response to that. And that's, for me, the most challenging bit, how we can facilitate this response, because it should be a corporate response. It's easier to respond individually, but to have a corporate response, the leader needs to be, wow, to me this is crazy challenging, how to do this. So it could mean to actually leave your planned set list because you feel that a certain song would be perfect now to capture what God is doing right now. Or it could mean praying a certain prayer. It could mean stopping as a whole and having people respond to Him with certain things, or have people come to the front and just invite people to get prayer or to bring things before God. I don't know, these are just ideas. I think anything or many things could be a suitable response. And this is where, to me, when the music fades, is a perfect song for this this part, if God leads it that way. Because I can't really plan for that to happen, but sometimes God leads it that way, that all of a sudden a certain song seems just perfect for the moment. But it's hard to plan that. Oftentimes I have one or two songs, like I have one song in my list and I just know if this is happening, I can play it. If it's not happening, I won't play it. It's no use. It won't happen.
Do you sometimes have specific songs you're like, I don't
It
know
goes
which
this way, like
direction?
this.
Yeah, like I have 2 or 3 options.
We usually have more songs prepared or in mind than we play, definitely. Like if we played 4 songs, we probably have 6. And then you just, with a set list, you kind of have the feeling, okay, this song is my goal. And from there I can go one step further. Like for today we had another song, but we felt like, okay, the goal was you turn the bitter into sweet. The part that we sang at the end. And I feel the same about, you wrote that down as well, about certain topics like salvation. The cross is a very good topic that you can never grow tired of. But it's good to start off with the invitation and the praise. Even if you can't think of an invitation song, well then praise longer, and then hit the cross, then hit those songs. And there are other topics like surrender or devotion. And when you realize, okay, there's something happening there, God is moving, His Spirit is there, then you have the opportunity to go to the next level, where it's not really that important anymore what you play. I mean, you can probably ruin it by stopping or by being worried what to do. I love this one sentence that Jeremy Riddle said, a pretty good worship leader in Bethel Church. He said, "Embrace the awkward." And there's really something that I...
You do love the awkward?
Yeah, that I wanna do, because we definitely want to be helpful. We don't want to be worship leaders that lead in a way that you would come into God's presence better without us. We want to be good leaders, but then again, we don't want to be afraid of waiting. So
and when God shows up, I mean, that's just the best part, right? I love this verse in 2 Chronicles where it says, when the trumpeters and singers were as one. Here we have again the unity aspect, to make one sound to be heard in praising and thanking the Lord. And when they lifted up their voice with the trumpets and cymbals and instruments of music and praised the Lord, saying, for He is good, for His mercy endures forever. So they're praising and declaring that the house of the Lord was filled with the cloud, so that the priests could not continue ministering because of the cloud, because for the glory of the Lord filled the house of God. That is so, my soul is yearning for that. I'm thirsty for that God shows up in a way that all our schemes, our plans, everything we have planned is just for naught. We can just sit there and God is at work. I'm not saying He's not at work while we're leading. That's not what I'm saying. Just saying He can take control in such a way that we can't continue anymore, and it would be foolish to do so. So that's why I also wrote down, don't ruin it. Usually I tend to say too many things or pray too many things when I should just shut up and enjoy, really. And maybe times of worship have not come to this place because they have ended too early. That might be the case. But I'm well aware that sometimes you have harsh time restrictions. And I'm not saying that time restrictions are totally unspiritual, because I know that Hillsong has a very strict approach on time. I know that when Jesus Culture played at Sydney, they had 17 minutes for a worship set, and that
so they played one song.
Two
songs.
played 2 songs. So it can be done.
But especially going from phase 3 to 4, we had the phrase in the Epicenter once. We actually had an idea to make an event out of it, but we never did, to call it a Pioneer Night. We have worship nights, where we have a big worship set, and I feel like that we actually are always pioneers. Because, you're always listening. Okay, God, where are you going? Is my band following? Can I play the song that I have in my head? Does the other one know how to play it? And so you're always a pioneer in a way that you also need your church to be pioneers. And I think we can actually excite the people that we lead. We can excite them more about the journey. Worship is not boring. It's really not boring. And maybe sometimes people are bored too often, and we can help them to not be by saying, hey, we're all pioneers today. I have a goal where we want to go. There's this certain prayer that I want to pray, or this certain song that I want to sing, or this certain verse that I want to see come alive in this gathering that we have here. But I'm not sure how to get there yet. And if I might pause for a minute or two, don't be alarmed. It's, stay with me. Listen to God as well. And I don't do this enough. I really want to invite the church more to be also the pioneer that happens to be on the stage, but that we all kind of feel that we all have a part in this. You know, I mean, if God says something to you for a worship set, it would be so bad if you didn't express that. You know, maybe we're missing something and God wants to use you to lead us another place. That doesn't mean we want to have no order at all, but to give everyone more responsibility into meeting with God, because it's nothing that the worship leader can do for you.
That's an excellent point. I try to support worship leaders when I'm in their congregation, and I think that every one of us can lead worship without leading worship. What I mean is, if I sit like this and I'm signaling to the guy who's leading worship, come on, it's like you drag me to God, right? I'm sitting here, it's really comfy, and like that's horrible. But if I'm sending signals that I'm after this as well, and I'm willing to press in, I'm willing to put effort, I'm willing to wait. I'm willing to wait for it's so funny that we can't even wait for God for, 3 minutes. People start doing all kinds of weird things, but He's so worthy. Like, if we really believe that, it shouldn't be a problem to wait on Him for just a couple of minutes. And I'm so thankful for people who feel have this ownership for that common goal, that are in the gathering, and I want to be that kind of guy to others who need worship. I want them to feel supported by what I'm doing, and if I feel they're discouraged, I try to maybe sometimes it helps if they can see you and you actually give them a signal like, okay, hang in there, like you're doing a good thing. Let's do this a little bit longer. Yeah. Some thoughts of about worshiping as a band. I love band music. I haven't had it in a long time. Like it.
So just you and Steven.
Yeah, it's always Steven and me, which is awesome. Like, I love big bands, but I feel when I have to choose, if I had to choose between having freedom in leading worship and flowing, and between this and a bigger band, I would also have the smaller band with me, because I feel so uncomfortable if the band is like, if there, there's some guy who plays his instrument really well, but we haven't practiced together, and then he comes in, and for some reason it just, you feel like, okay, I want to go here, but what about him, right? I just, for myself, I would say I prefer, like, I would have the band smaller and not sacrifice the liberty I have in flowing wherever I want to, because that's really important to me, to be able to flow with the band. And I've heard bands that doesn't like, when you listen to them, it doesn't sound like they're flowing, or they're not really in sync with each other, or with something deeper that's going on. And I feel that when we lead worship, there's a river of God, what He's doing, and the ideal would be that we're all in that river, and we're swimming with the things that God is doing, also with our instruments. And that's asking a lot sometimes, because people need to have mastered their instruments on a certain skill level. It's really hard if I don't know, if I've just started playing the guitar and I have to read every chord and how's this going? So I don't want to be harsh here. I want to help those people too, but I wouldn't necessarily want to have them in my band to be, like, not for, I hope this makes sense. It's just, it has become so valuable to me that, for example, when I play with Steven, and there are also many others, it's just so easy. And we need this ease, because God is more important than the music. Like if we don't have that, the focus will be too much on the music, and I as a leader will be concerned with questions, okay, did he get the right key? Is he checking where we're going? And I don't know, and it's all mind capacity that's taken off actually leading, like worshiping God and leading people, and taken, like that's used for the pure musical stuff. So I give that advice to, in that case, to have a smaller band instead.
But I mean, that is of course only true for the setting where you have certain songs, but you're totally open to play something you haven't prepared for, you haven't printed out a sheet for, you know. When you start with an instrument, or with myself, I play the guitar, but I need the chords, and I only know like 5 of them. So I need to choose songs that have chords that I can play. And I mean, I can have powerful worship times with that too, but I won't have the freedom, like for instance, say when the music fades, it's like the perfect song, yeah, good, but I can't play it, so I won't play it. I mean,
just faded.
Yeah, just fading, so like, oh yeah, right, I can sing a cappella. No, I mean, there are a lot of settings, and that can be in a big church as well, or house group to me is such a good and I think necessary training field for you as a worship leader, because you might be still limited in your techniques, but you still have a group of people that you want to engage in, and you don't really have a band to back you up, so you always have to be there and kind of set the tone and set the direction. So I think what Momo is saying is like, this would be our ideal scenario. Like for instance, the worship nights we do with the Epicenter every other month. It's like 2 hours of worship, sometimes a sermon in the middle, and there we want this flowing. You know, we have 7, 8, 9 songs prepared, but usually we would play a couple that are not on the list, and we would sing spontaneously, like we did today. I mean, a lot of songs weren't there because they aren't songs yet. We just sing them, and of course you need people who play the instruments to follow you there. But if you don't have that, then just use what you have as well as you can. You know, pray over your set list. Just because you can't put a spontaneous song in doesn't mean that your set list doesn't work. And always leave. It's good to leave room. You know, play the song without singing and see what happens. You know, if people are totally don't know what to do, and invite them. Hey, just, you know, pray or sing for yourself. We're just gonna stay here and see what God is doing. You know, you don't have to fill every moment. Yeah, but flowing as a band is of course nice. Oh yeah. Yeah, the last point, we wanted to give you some ideas as to worship leading without a musical instrument. And I count the voice in as well. So without a music set. We did this in our old church a couple of years ago. We had this in the house groups, that we would have everyone lead worship, even though they didn't play an instrument, and very often we would just have like 3 YouTube clips and sing to them. But I think there are many other ways that we can use to kind of set the mood to meet with God, you know, especially when you have a meeting and you want to talk about something else, you want to talk about His Word, you want to share your feelings, or you want to share your sorrows. It's always good to come in first with a time of worship, because that puts your eyes on the right focus. And if you don't want to, or you can't lead with music, with songs, then there are many other ways. The point is that I find very important, that we are all called to be worshipers. I mean, I know this point is probably very clear to you, but I know I used to hide behind the fact that I didn't play a musical instrument. I mean, I do play the guitar now a little, but I used to hide behind that. Hey, I can't be a worship leader. I don't play anything, or at least not well enough. And God really had to put His finger on that, because I was hiding behind it. I think in the end I was too proud to lead with something else because I wanted to be the cool musical person. And I think God really had to address that before he could put me on the stage. Even maybe your story is a totally different one, or people you know that are struggling with this topic where you have the feeling that God wants to tickle them out of their comfort, you know, and call them into a position where they lead worship. I think it's important to give them a little push, you know. For instance, in house groups, just say, okay, we just, you know, everybody does it every week. We just go around. And as I said before, I think music is still a pretty good tool. Whatever you do as a time of worship, it's good to use music, for instance, background music. There are a lot of ideas that we can use to have a corporate worship time.